Educational GMAT. Your partner in your GMAT journey.
Starting with a very difficult question. I'll give you guys 5 minutes for this. Difficulty is the name of this question. Yes. All right. So obviously all software requires processing capacity, right? So there is a software. Oh no, so Ayush, there will be only one answer for blank one. And for blank one, when we are looking, so this is how it would be. For blank one, the answer would be one of these. For blank two, the answer would be one of these. Is that what you're asking? Hmm. Okay. So, all right. Okay. So there is an information management software that needs processing capacity to run. Okay. Now that processing capacity can be provided using what? How many options do we have? 3 options, right? That processing capacity that's required by this information management software to run can be provided either through this option or through this or through this. Correct? Most information software, management software has non-zero capacities provided by all the 3 methods. Okay. Cost and capacity levels indicated reflect the minimum that are shared by information management software of this type. What does this mean? Can someone interpret this? Cost and capacity, cost and capacity levels indicated by the levels of the curves at the far left end of the graph. Far left end would be this, reflect minimums that are shared by all the information management software of this type. What it means is that this point is not zero. What does it mean? What it means is, let's do that. Even if, let us say, you choose interfacing capabilities, let's say. So what this shows is that even if you are looking at providing zero processing capacity through interfacing capabilities, you still have, sorry, you still have to pay something, right? However, obviously, for point-to-point interfaces, if you are not providing or not looking at point-to-point interfaces for any processing capacity, then you don't pay anything. So as far as interfacing capabilities and integration capabilities go, even if you do not actually use any processing capacity from these interfaces, you still have to pay something. That's basically what it means. And then it says the lines continue to the right, which means basically this is the same trend. So the line continues to the right with similar slopes beyond the points shown. Okay, and then it says select from the drop-down menus the options that create the statements with the most accurate. Okay, for the information management software with dash levels of processing capacity, and these are the options. It would be least expensive. This is the keyword. To add a small processing capacity by means of what? Now tell me, what concept are you using to approach this? Absolutely. And if you remember, very nice. We discussed this concept in detail in the last class. I actually put forth many examples of this. dy by dx, which is slope that we are looking for. Now, for those of you forgotten, I'll quickly just revise that. So notice in all such cases, what's happening is for the slope determines the additional, in this case, cost. Higher the slope, higher the cost. All right. So, and another thing that we discussed was, for example, if this is line 1 and this is line 2, tell me which line has a greater slope. Line 1 has a greater slope, and hence essentially the additional cost of providing unit processing capacity. When we say unit processing capacity, again, quickly reminding you, let's say if this is processing capacity and this is the cost, by unit, what do we mean? A unit, let's say, increase. All right. So if this is one, what is the unit for processing capacity? Is it Mbps or something? Or how much is? Guys, all computer professionals, what is processing? MPS, right? Oh, there is nothing like processing capacity. Okay, whatever. Let's just take one unit. So let's say this is 2, this is 3. All right. So this is that unit processing capacity. So how much is the additional cost of providing this unit processing capacity? Again, you would remember this from our last class. So basically the way we do is from 2 to 3. That's what we want to increase. So what is the additional cost for increasing the processing capacity from 2 to 3? This is how we figure out, right? So for line 2, this is that additional cost for providing one unit of additional processing capacity. Correct? How about line 1? Again, notice we want to increase the processing capacity from 2 to 3. Now notice 2 would correspond to this point, 3 would correspond to this point. So what is the what is the cost of providing unit additional processing capacity through line 1? This one, right? So clearly this is way more than this, and hence we know that the cost of providing unit processing capacity through line 1 is greater than cost of providing unit additional processing capacity through line 2. This essentially corresponds to the slope. So in this case, higher the slope, more the cost of adding unit processing capacity. All right. So I've given enough of background. Now let's go back to the question. All right. Um, for the information management software with dash levels of processing capacity, it would be least expensive. Least expensive means we are looking at the processing capacity that has what slope? Lowest slope, right? Least processing capacity is lowest slope. All right. Now, that's another thing that we looked at, that when we talk about a curve. All right. Now, how do you find out the slope of a curve? First of all, the slope of a curve will change at every point as opposed to a straight line, which always has a constant slope. And if you remember, what we discussed was, for example, if you have to find out the slope of the line here, then what do? Mentally, you create a tangent. So basically, it would be like this. So this would be the slope of this curve at this point. What would be the slope of this curve at this point? Again, create a tangent. So this would be the slope. So obviously the slope at this point would be greater than the slope at this point. Correct? All righty. So now what do you think? Now what do you think, guys? We've covered all the basics here. So for the information management software with higher levels, but not the software with lower levels of processing capacity. All right. Now, this would be obviously higher level. This would be lower level. Correct? All right. Lower levels, but not with higher levels, or all of the indicated. Uh, it would be least expensive to add a small amount of processing capacity by means of which of the three options?
I think A
All
and
right.
C.
Okay, let's look at this. Let's look at this. Now, let's look at higher levels of processing capacity. Now, I think at the higher levels, it should be clear. And I mean, there's no specific point, but let's say this is a higher level. Now, at higher levels of processing capacity, tell me the slope, right? Is that the least for this, or this? Sorry, tell me, guys, the slope is least for
Or
which one?
integration capabilities.
Integration capabilities, right? At the higher level. Agreed? If this is not very clear, let's quickly do that. Notice again, what do we do at any point of time? We basically create a tangent. So obviously the tangent would be pretty much a straight line here, correct? Now, since this is kind of progressing, right? Like this. So the slope for interfacing capabilities would be typically like this, right? And obviously point-to-point interfaces, since it's a straight line, it's like this. So it is very clear that the slope is the least for integration capabilities for higher levels of processing capacity. All right. Now let's look at lower levels of processing capacity. Okay. So in fact, by lower, let's look at this. We are talking about adding a small processing capacity. So let's say this is 0 processing capacity, and let's say this is 1. So we have to increase the processing capacity from 0 to 1. All right. So this is lower level of processing capacity in this range. So in this range as well, if we have to increase the processing capacity from 0 to 1, tell me which slope is the lowest? Again, integration capacity is the lowest. If you look at it, notice At this point also, right, basically the slope of integration capability is like this. The slope of point-to-point interfaces anyway is this. And what is the slope of interfacing interfacing capabilities? Notice it would be like this. So clearly this one is the lowest. And hence the answer would be this. At all of the indicated. Basically, it does not matter based upon the graphs whether we are talking about lower processing capacities or higher processing capacities. Across processing capacities, the slope of integration capabilities continues to be the least, which means the cost of providing additional processing capacity through integration capabilities also continues to be the least across all processing capacities. All right. Now, please make sure that what the question is not asking is that if one of these options is chosen to provide zero processing capacity, then which one is the cheapest? For zero processing capacity, obviously point-to-point interfaces is the cheapest because it's zero. That's not what the question is asking, however. The question is saying if you have to increase or add a small processing capacity, delta X is what the question is asking for. For delta X, which of these three options has the smallest delta Y? Right? Again, reiterating, if delta X and delta Y are not clear, for delta X, which one is the smallest delta Y additional cost? Are we clear? Yes, go ahead.
So if it is like at the higher levels, we get integration capabilities, and at the lower level, for example, if it is interfacing capabilities, then what do we choose here in the blank? If it is, it's not the same in both the things.
I did not get your question actually.
What I mean is, like, suppose at the higher level, we get suppose integrating capabilities, and at the
Yes.
lower level, we don't get the same thing. It's for example, if it is interfacing capabilities, then in the
Okay.
blank one, what do we choose? Hello.
So, all right. So please correct me if I am wrongly interpreting your question. I believe your question was that how should the graphs have looked like so that interfacing capabilities is the right answer for blank one. So what I can think about is
No.
basically
My question was not that. Like
then,
in this question, we got that at the highest and lowest areas, the lowest slope is integrating capability.
but what I'm saying is that slope is the lowest for integration capabilities here also, here also, here also, everywhere.
Correct. Suppose we get at different levels different answers, then how do we get the blank one?
I
Yes,
think in that
and
case we'll
that's
have to compare, right? Vishwanath?
so that's what I'm actually
Okay.
kind of going towards. I'm just hear me out. Let us say, okay, so this was P2P. All right, this is P2P, and this obviously is integration capabilities. Integration capabilities. I'm basically saying that if the graph was, let us say, okay, uh, here, suppose the graph was, let's say, like this for interfacing capabilities. Interfacing capabilities. In that case, by the way, for lower levels of processing capacity, it would be, which one would be most cost effective?
It would be interfacing.
Absolutely. right? For lower levels, interfacing would be most cost effective, and for higher levels of processing capacities, integration capabilities would have been more effective.
So, sir, in the option as blank one, should we choose higher level and integrating capabilities or lower levels and interfacing? In that case, because the blank is just one and one, right?
So in that case, if this is the graph, then yeah, I mean, the blanks would obviously change in that case. Yes, correct. I'm just
So
talking
it would
about
be,
us.
okay.
Yes. So I'm saying that
It
if
wouldn't
this
be
was
like
the
this.
so don't worry about blanks, right? We are just having a discussion here. But what I'm saying is that if this was the scenario that was presented to you, in that case, at lower levels, interfacing capabilities would have been more cost effective, and at higher levels, integration capabilities would have proved to be most cost effective. That's all I'm saying.
So we demarcate between lower and higher levels before and
That's
after the
true.
point of
No,
intersection.
you are right. You are right, actually. You are right. You are right. So that's a bit of an ambiguity here that obviously then, I mean, this was just a hypothetical scenario, by the way. Now, an ambiguity that still remains is that when we say lower levels or higher levels, do we stop at lower levels at this point, or should we take it this till this point? There is an ambiguity. Yes, but this was just for illustration purposes, guys. So there is no fixed rule where lower ends and higher starts. Completely agree with that.
Sir, also, can you please help me understand blank one's A and B parts meanings? Because it's not very clear to me, like higher levels, but not the software with lower processing capacity. Can you please elaborate both A and B options?
I mean, it's basically like this. For software with higher levels, but not the software with lower levels. So software with higher levels of processing capacity, higher levels, again, as I said, no fixed demarcation for that. So
Right, right.
basically software with higher levels of processing. So this is processing
Yes.
capacity, right? So we are talking about higher levels here. And let us say we
Hmm.
talk about lower levels here. But
Okay.
then in this particular case, as we discussed, integration capability, irrespective of what the processing capacity is, whether we are talking about this range or this range, in either case, it proves to be most cost effective.
Okay, sir.
All right.
So, sir, this software with the last three words, what significance does it have? Like, if you just say higher levels and lower levels, does it mean the same thing?
It does, but again, in the alternate scenario that I presented to you, which would be this, and let's say this. In that case, higher levels and lower levels could make a difference because the processing capacity at, let's say, higher levels is the cheapest for this particular option, and at lower levels, perhaps it is the cheapest for this particular option. So in this case,
No,
it
no.
could make a difference.
Like, what I was asking is, it is written higher levels, but not the software with the lower. Not with the software with lower. That exactly I was
No,
understanding the
it's
meaning.
not so higher levels, but not the software. Software with higher levels, but not software with lower levels. We are talking about software only. It's not higher level versus software. Got
So,
it?
sir,
So
that
this,
software with lower levels, it actually, I don't know how it makes sense. Like, is it even needed? Because it means the same thing. Like, what is the significance I wanted to get? That additional, if he's mentioning in the option, what is the significance? Does it have any other meaning?
It means the processing capacity, right? Like the higher
correct. That's
processing
all it
capacity and the
means.
lower processing capacity.
Correct. So higher
That is,
levels means higher levels, right? I mean, basically it does mention this, right? So which for the software, for information management software, basically what it's, there is an information management software that needs to run. Do you guys agree? And we have three options to provide that processing capacity for that information management software to run. Okay, so what it's basically saying is that if the information management software requires higher levels of processing capacity, in that case, which option would be the cheapest to provide a unit increase of processing capacity, and if the information management software needs a lower processing capacity, then which of these three options would be the cheapest? Software
Okay,
needs
sir.
processing capacity. Okay.
So, sir, the last three, what's the software with lower and software with higher actually doesn't add anything. It's the same meaning, correct?
So again, Vishnath, again, I would go back to
I
my
got,
diagram.
sir, I got it. I got it. I just wanted
So
to
in
confirm
that
because
case, it would matter, but in this particular case, you are right, it does not matter. Yes.